Welcome to the Football Forecast, your ultimate guide to the NFL week ahead. Get ready as we dive deep into the biggest matchups, analyze key player performances, and break down the strategies that could make or break your favorite team's chances. Whether you're looking to dominate your fantasy league, make smart picks and bets, or simply stay ahead of the game, we've got you covered with insights and predictions. So buckle up, football fans. It's time to get your game face on for another action-packed week in the NFL. While only one team can hoist the trophy at the end, it all starts with the forecast. Welcome back to the Football Forecast here on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Make sure you check us out on social media at TFB Forecast ETB, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok for the countdown of days that's left. Hopefully it doesn't go away. I can't promise that, but I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. So check us out on all the social media platforms. YouTube.com/ETB Network video side. We did break 900 subscribers. We are less than 100 away from 1,000 subscribers. So please hit the like and subscribe button that's probably glowing or spinning below the video. So please hit that as well. Listen to the Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, YouTube Premium. Any place that has audio, you will find this show. So please check that out as well. And Football Forecast is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. College football is on Playback as the Ohio State Buckeyes take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. There's never been a path like this to the national championship as the final teams take the field. Everyone knows this one is bigger. Coverage gets underway at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time with our national championship pre-show, with the game starting somewhere around 7:30 p.m.
Yeah, it's going to start at 7:30.
Because we all know how the networks work. It never starts at 7:30. But all right, everybody, welcome back through the wild card round, and now we head into the all-important divisional round. And we had a lot of good games, some crappy games. Anthony was probably happy about a certain game that didn't need to be sweat as much. But I guess we could talk about two of these games, right? So,
yeah,
you want to bring those up?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think those are the two that really are the ones that are being discussed the most. I mean, it wasn't the best wild card round because there wasn't a lot of drama until you get to Sunday night when you had the Commanders beat the Buccaneers on a doink-in field goal for the Commanders. And I think it was just amazing. Jaden Daniels, the rookie, who has had an amazing rookie season. I'll tell you, you watch him play and you watch him, perform and stuff. Guy looks like he's a 6, 7, 8-year veteran out there, and it's not been a stranger for the Commanders. They've played a lot of close games in the last several weeks to get to this position, and now they carry on. I thought that was an amazing effort from Daniels and the Commanders side, who haven't been in this position in a very long time, guys.
Yeah, this game was fantastic. I mean, it would have been nice if Bram Weinstein got the doink off the upright. Would have been nice. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the enthusiasm. But something was going on in that booth a little bit. But Jaden Daniels is a magician in every way, shape, or form. He finds ways to win game after game after game. And I guess we'll just have to see how far the Commanders can go. The Lions are going to be a tough matchup for them, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then one other thing that's being discussed real quick is the Monday night game between the Vikings and the Rams for a multitude of reasons. Number one, the game moved to Arizona because of what's happening out there in LA. And number two, Sam Darnold, who is a name that we've discussed a lot here on the show this season. Another rough performance for him. And now all the talk going into the off season with him was, we were talking about him on the show possibly making 40 to 50 million per year. It seems like now he's going to take a significant cut. It's tough though to say because he did have some moments this year. I think if he's in the right system, like I truly think that he should go back to the Vikings because I think that fits him well. But now he's good. That will be a discussion for the Vikings to decide. And it is weird from the Vikings side because now in the last 2 playoffs that they've been in, they were a 13-win team that got eliminated in the wild card round, and then a 14-win team that had to go on the road and get eliminated in the wild card round. So the Vikings have been able to get into the playoffs, but they just have not been able to make a deep run here in quite some time.
I mean, people are saying, is he seeing ghosts again? I mean, I don't know if I would say
It's
he's seeing
not
ghosts.
Halloween weekend right now, or the season, so I don't know. Maybe it's the off season for him for seeing ghosts.
I don't know. I mean, I do think it's an upset, though, but even though I took the Rams in an upset, but I just think the Rams were more poised, not that they really needed any extra momentum to really get them through the game, but I think playing for the city really pushed them through this game.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that, Nick.
So, yeah, it's wild time for the Rams. By the way, we got to give credit to the Cardinals and their ownership. One for sending the private planes to get all the families out of Los Angeles to the Palisades, and with kids, with pets, with everything. And I think on top of that, also they repainted the stadium, right, to make it look like LA.
They did.
So, I think Michael Bildwell is the owner of the Cardinals. I think he got to give him a lot of credit because, again, he didn't have to do any of that at all. But kudos to them. They set the locker rooms up the way they needed to, and
the practices too. There's a lot of in terms of the Rams had used the Cardinals practice facilities over in Tempe on Saturday, and so everything kind of was very round when it came to the situations. But of course, desperate times call for desperate measures, and of course this was a very understandable situation for this.
My question going forward, though, also will be: is this what they're going to play on? Like, are they going to use that as momentum the rest of the playoffs? Hey, we got to play for our city. Like, I'm curious to see if that'll last them all the way through.
Yeah, it's always tricky. It's always tricky when you talk about a tragedy or a weather system or something. It's hard to say using that as motivation, and it's hard to balance that into the picks. For me personally, I think I look at the Rams team itself, and it's a team that's been playing great for quite some time. And when they're healthy and stuff, they have as good of a chance to compete as anybody really in the NFC, especially on offense. And that's going to be one of the 4 cool games to watch. I mean, I think they're all great in their own ways, but that game on Sunday against the Eagles is going to be a very cool matchup for sure.
Agreed.
All right. So you ready to get going with the divisional round?
Yeah, I think this is the best weekend of the football season every year. I mean, I know we had 5 consecutive days of football action last week, although they weren't all that impressive. But now you have the final 8 here as we get closer to Super Bowl 59. And if you really want to make it a 3-day weekend, you can, because we do have the national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame to wrap it up on Monday. But all 4 of these matchups on paper look to be very good. Now let's see if the result can be that way. But let's do this thing, guys, for divisional weekend in the NFL. Ben, we start with Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and Laura Rutledge on ESPN and ABC at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium, with the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud taking on the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, with the Chiefs an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, so of course, the Chiefs obviously are trying to go for the first 3-peat in NFL history. Of course, starting this weekend. The Texans, of course, are coming off of I want to say really more of an upset, because the Chargers, I feel like the Texans are very similar in terms of the teams. What a disappointment, by the way, by Justin Herbert, but we could talk about that another time. But yeah, I know the Chiefs are really, really good at home during the playoffs. You can never count on Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. The Texans, I will say offensively, they had their moments. And Nico Collins and CJ Stroud, I thought at times during the game, kind of show like their old duo selves. But I think the reason why the Texans really won that game last week was because of their defense. Their secondary is absolutely incredible. Their front obviously was really, really good. And the Texans and Chiefs just played each other a couple weeks ago during the regular season. And the Texans had the lead actually early on that game. They kind of kept it close, at least for the first half. I will say, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game by their running game. I think the Texans' front is going to be able to get to Patrick Mahomes, but I think that the Chiefs are going to do what they do, especially in the playoffs, play complementary football. Their defense still, I think, will get after the offensive line, which I think is going to be very up and down like they did a couple weeks ago in Arrowhead. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs here to cover. I feel pretty good about this. It's not going to be my lock of the week, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs here to take the 8.5.
Kanan.
Yeah, so I thought the Texans defense was awesome last week. They made Herbert look absolutely silly. I don't really think they could get it done with the Chiefs, though. Even with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, I think their keys would be, keeping Mahomes in the pocket because he does like to run sometimes. I feel like people kind of forget he has the legs to move and he picks up those big gains when you're least expecting it. So that could be good. I think the Texans need to get Nico Collins back in the mix. Like you said, Ben, that duo looked good. They got to throw it to him. I'm still going to have to go with the Chiefs because they're just hard to bet on. Even with Mahomes being out since before Christmas and all these other things that happened to them, they had these close, ugly games. I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs to cover.
Nick.
This is actually a tough game because the Texans really showed me that they could play. Now, I think the Texans were the betting favorite last week, right? Even though the Chargers, I thought they were. Were the Chargers the betting favorite?
Chargers were the Field favorite, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It
didn't really feel like it could have really went either way, but the Chargers, I think, because of the recent play that they had, were the reason why they were their favorites coming into that game.
I think everybody thought the Chargers. I think we all picked the Chargers last week, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody on this show picked the Chargers.
Only us.
And only us. And we get it completely blown up, and the Texans win by 20, which no one expected. I mean, like Ben was saying, trying to go for a three-peat. Obviously, it's big moment. I think this is their biggest, or one of their bigger competitions. I think they could beat some of the other teams, but it's Patrick Mahomes. How do you go against Patrick Mahomes? That's even though he's thrown more interceptions this year, the offense has been more prone to issues than the first two Super Bowls that they won. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's clutch. It's in the playoffs. That's the formula. It's not my lock because, in my opinion, I would say I think that spread is too big. So I'm going to take Chiefs no cover.
Okay.
So in the regular season, I could understand that because based on how these two teams played in the regular season and how the Chiefs had performed in the regular season, especially with laying, I think they were like 0-6-1 when they were favored by more than 6 points. And when these two met earlier in the year, like you guys had said, the final score landed inside of this number. But that's the regular season. This is the playoffs, and based on playoff history, it's a different story for both of these teams. The Texans are 0-5 in the divisional round. They're 0-5 all-time on the road in the playoffs. And the Chiefs' offense statistically was in the middle of the pack this season. But like we saw last year, once the playoffs start, they go into a different role. And I think that 3-week rest that most of their starters had is not a problem for this group. You know what else was also going to work for the Chiefs and not for the Texans is going to be the weather. This right now, the way they're talking about it, this looks like it's going to be the third coldest game in franchise history for the Texans and the coldest that they've played in over 16 years. And C.J. Stroud is 0-2 in games where the temperature is 30 degrees or below. It's tricky. This is a very tough one because the number does seem to be a little bit bloated. But I'm looking at, when I look at this matchup, I saw the Texans come to life on offense. The first 25 minutes of that game, they looked completely lifeless on offense. But at the same time, the Chargers were only able to put up 6 points. And watching that game in real time, I was saying that the Chargers looked like they were so much the better team, yet they were only up 6-0. And obviously, we saw the second half, their offense take advantage. Their defense, their pass rushers got to Herbert in a big way. I think that's going to be a little bit more of a problem, though, in this game because the Chiefs' offensive line has gotten better in the last month or so. And I'm curious to see how those two edge rushers and those two corners for the Texans are going to go up against guys like Kelsey, Brown, Worthy, and Hopkins. And I think that what's going to end up happening is I think also the Chiefs' defense is going to get the best of the Texans' offensive line, which is going to result in turnovers for Stroud. So because it's the playoffs and because of the history between these two, I am going to lay the 8.5 with the Chiefs. I think they win this by two scores. And yes, this will be my lock of the week. I am going to lock the Chiefs minus the 8.5. Grant?
Yeah, so, I mean, all you guys have said it. You can't bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And honestly, I mean, he hasn't – I mean, maybe the one thing that the Texans necessarily have going for them is the fact that Patrick Mahomes has not thrown a ball in 3 weeks. But also, with that 3 weeks, it also gives him time to rest, and it gives him time to extra prepare. So, I mean, I would not be surprised if we see, a mastermind in Patrick Mahomes on Saturday. But yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs to win and cover.
And Anthony?
Yeah, Johnny, I'm right with you. Definitely got to go with the Chiefs to win and cover in this one. Now, normally, if the Chiefs weren't coming off of some rest and a bye, I would say probably Chiefs no cover because obviously, the Texans have a great defense and the Chiefs do struggle to block, particularly at the tackle positions. The interior of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line is dominant. They probably got the best interior combination between center and two guards, but their tackles are very poor, and that's why Mahomes gets sacked and pressured a lot. And going up against Hunter and going up against Will Anderson Jr., obviously that's a bad combination. But for most quarterbacks and for most teams, having that much rest, you're going to think, wow, they're going to be rusty. They're probably going to start off slow. Well, now when it comes to Andy Reid coach teams, Andy Reid is very good coming off of a bye. And when his teams come off of a bye and get any sort of rest, they're always dominant that next week. So because of that alone, I have to pick the Kansas City Chiefs to win and cover. But obviously, I'm not going to make it my lock of the week. I'm not that confident. But, yeah, give me the Chiefs.
All right. And by the way, we're all taking the Chiefs to win. Nick's going to be the only one that's going to be slightly different. And by that notion, the Chiefs will be back in the AFC Championship game, and they'll be having a rematch against one of the other two teams that we'll get to in the other matchup in just a little bit.
Really quick, Johnny, the Chiefs going to the AFC title game. Is that like 4 straight now? 5 straight?
I think it's 7 straight. If I remember correctly, because I remember you,
That's insane.
Tom, Ben, Nick did the game last year.
You did.
And I think I remember you guys saying it was 6. I think it would be 7 straight
It's
AFC
from 2018 to 2024, right? So that would be 7.
Yeah. No, because we
you can make the case. It's one of the.
It would be 7. It would be 7.
And think about it with the extra 2 teams that have made the playoffs in the last several years. And the extra game that's added on, this could be the most remarkable run that we've seen in NFL history.
Well, Tom Brady went to, I think it was 9 straight. So,
yeah, that's true. But you could also make the case that, adding an extra game in the regular season and adding 2 extra teams in the playoffs, that this could even be more remarkable.
No,
the one thing Brady does have, though, is he does have the extra Super Bowl rings, and that's something that Patrick Mahomes does not have yet. I mean, he's getting there, but he's still got a ways to go in terms of that regard. But still, in this day and age with free agency and key players moving on and stuff, it is shaping up to be one of the most remarkable runs that we've seen in NFL history, and we'll see if the Chiefs can keep it going here on Saturday. To the Saturday night game now, Grant, it's Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi on Fox as Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders go to Ford Field to face Jared Goff and the Lions, and it's the Lions an 8.5-point favorite.
Okay, before I go into the Lions, I just have to say, the Commanders have been playing great. Jaden Daniels is Rookie of the Year. Sadly, right behind Bo Nix, and honestly, part of me wants to say Bo Nix deserves it more because Bo Nix is on a worse team in my opinion. But I mean, the Commanders have been playing great. They've surrounded Jaden Daniels with a lot of help in front of him. They got to get him some weapons, but that's going to be taken care of this year. But onto the Lions. I mean, they're just a powerhouse. Now the problem is, I see two of their coaches possibly, pretty much like 99% moving on to head coaching jobs, and my concern is how good is their staff without Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. But that remains to be seen. But I'm not just gonna take the Lions to win and cover. This is my lock of the week. Give me the Lions to win.
Anthony.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome matchup. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I know I thought the Buccaneers and Commanders game last week was going to be high-scoring, definitely lower scoring and less touchdowns than I thought. But I think this game will make up for it. I mean, these are two powerhouses on offenses, and I think on defense, both these teams can struggle a little bit. With Jaden Daniels, I mean, you got to say he's probably had the greatest rookie season of all time. That guy is so poised and so accurate. And like Johnny said earlier, he plays like he's a 7-year vet. It's almost like he's like Lamar Jackson when Lamar Jackson was already in year 3 or year 4. But the difference is this guy's clutch, and this guy seems to be a winner when the game matters. And, obviously you already know who the top 4 quarterbacks are with Josh Allen, Burrow, Lamar, and Mahomes. But there's that battle and argument of who's the 5th best quarterback, and Jaden Daniels has a good opportunity to maybe establish himself at that. At the end of the day, I got to go with the Lions. They're the home team. They play really good at home. And obviously Jared Goff and the way Dan Campbell's got that team going, they're on a vengeance to do what they did last year where they came up so close, losing in the NFC Championship game. They want to go back to the NFC Championship game, which I think that they will. So give me the Lions to win, but I don't think they cover. I think Jaden Daniels will score enough points to keep this close. So give me Lions no cover.
So Anthony, just to add on to what you were saying, the total on this game is 55.5, and that is the largest number in a playoff game in the last 6 years. So they think this game is going to get loose there.
And it's important to note also that David Montgomery is back in the starting lineup. So
that is right.
Sonic and Knuckles will be back for the Lions.
Yeah, and I think that's a big.
I have
that
to say
helps a lot.
that's a good nickname for the two of them. I think that's funny.
Yep. Ben, what do you have?
Oh, Ben, you're muted.
Sorry about that. This is going to be a great game, like Anthony mentioned. The Lions, of course, kind of coming into this year, their defense was absolutely spectacular. However, unfortunately, with the injuries, it's kind of diminished at least the second half coming into the playoffs. The Commanders, I will say, last week, they really had a hard time running the football. And I think that if they really want to have a chance to go into this game and pull out the upset, they have to find a way to run the football. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, two guys that were really great to the start of the season, last week they really had a hard time. The Bucs defense was doing a really good job containing that. Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell, that's the battle of Dan Campbell Jr. and Dan Campbell himself. They love to take risks no matter what the situation is. So I think not only we're going to have a great game of football, we're going to have, I think, a ton of chaos where essentially when you look at field goal ranges, it's going to be more of 4th downs when you're playing Madden. So it should be a lot of fun. I agree with Anthony, though. I'm going to go Lions no cover. I think that Jaden Daniels and that offense is absolutely doing great despite their lack of their run. The biggest thing will be, though, the Lions are absolutely unstoppable. They have the rest. And to get David Montgomery back into the mix as well, I think just adds an element in terms of what they can use. Jahmyr Gibbs, of course, has been great, of course, with David Montgomery's absence. And I just think that helps a lot, too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to cook like usual. Give me Lions here, no cover.
Kanan.
Yeah, so this game's really interesting. Jaden Daniels, he's going to be awesome. He likes to sit in the pocket, control the game through the pass. And the Lions, they like to put pressure on the ball, as we saw in the Vikings game. So that would be cool to see. And the thing with the Commanders, though, is that they're lacking run defense. We saw that time and time again. And when you have such a dynamic backfield with Gibbs and now David Montgomery joining the mix, it's going to be hard to bet against the Lions. So I'm going to pick them, and I'm going no cover as well.
Nick.
Okay, so I actually was struggling with this game, believe it or not. Even with an 8.5-point spread, I was struggling because I said, all right, I needed to see how the Commanders were going to do against the Bucs because I wanted to see how well Jaden Daniels would do. By the way, I think he's the third quarterback as a rookie to go on the road and to win a playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. Also behind Flacco and Mark Sanchez. I think those are the two before him.
I think you might be right on that, yes.
So, incredible performance. Houdini act. This guy seems to always pull a rabbit out of his hat when he needs it at the last moment. What scares me about the Lions, I know most people are not going to say this, but what scares me about the Lions is, will their defense stay intact? That's the big thing. They've had a few defensive performances that have worked out for them, but the offense will be there. I'm not worried about their offense. It's the defense that I'm worried that they're, again, I said this a few weeks ago, they're going to have to outscore to stay in and win. My gut is telling me that Jaden Daniels is going to come out and cook. And really, now that he's got a win under his belt and he's comfortable, the nerves are going to be off a little bit. And he's going to go out there and play. This is going to be crazy, but I'm taking the Commanders outright to win this
he's
game.
Put him on the money line. Okay.
I'm taking it outright. I think the Commanders find a way to win this game, and maybe we get a little Jaden fire heading into the end of these playoffs.
Wow. I'm wondering if Pat, I know he's not here with us today, but I wonder if Pat would do the same thing because he did call that. He did say that. I know you, me, and Pat all did take the Commanders last week, and he put that as his lock. I wonder if he would do that again here. See, the numbers is a little bloated. Laying over a touchdown with two offensive teams the way they are, and like I mentioned earlier about Jaden Daniels, he looks like he's a veteran out there. He's coming off becoming the first rookie in NFL history to throw at least 2 touchdown passes in a road playoff win. He's playing out of his mind, and now he gets to even be more electric because he goes inside of on that fast track and go up against a Lions defense that has surrendered the third most amount of passing yards. As somebody here was talking about their running attack, I don't think their running attack needs to do much. I mean, they obviously can't. You can't be one-dimensional, but I think he can throw on the secondary. I absolutely do, and that's why I would not be surprised if we're looking at a game that's in the 60s in terms of a total. Of that. Now, Montgomery being back for the Lions, though, does help them because that is the one Achilles of the Commanders is their run defense. It is atrocious, and that will allow the Lions to keep Jaden Daniels off the field, and that'll help too. But I think the Commanders, they're playing with house money, and I feel like the Washington offense is good enough to stick around and make this game into a shootout. Now, again, how do the Lions counter that? It's you run it, and you run it some more. And Grant, you made a great point too. I really wonder what kind of impact the coordinators, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, with all the interviews that they've had in the last week or two, I wonder what kind of impact that does have on the Lions' game plan going into this one. So I feel like
not only that, but in the future as well. Because they're gonna be taking head coaching jobs. I mean, they're too dominant not to.
You know what this feels like? This feels like what happened with the Eagles 2 years ago when Shane Steichen and who's the defensive Jonathan Gannon.
Josh Gannon.
Jonathan Gannon. When Jonathan
Yeah.
Gannon left, and you saw what happened, how that impacted the Eagles last year. Now it looks like they've gotten over that, but that could have an impact on the Lions going to next year, which makes you think that they really have to go for it this year. But I at the end of the day, though, I think the Lions are going to eke out a 3 to 5 point win. So I am going to take the Lions to win, but I think the number is too bloated, and I think the Commander offense is too good that they're going to lose by more than one possession. So I think they will land inside this number. I am going to take the Commanders plus the points, but the Lions to win there at Ford Field. By the way, Nick D, who I know is not with us either, he's a big Lions guy, but he also took the Commanders plus 8.5 to cover he does think the Lions win, but he took no cover. And also Nick D and Zan did agree with me and put their bench lock on the Chiefs in the first game. So just something to keep in mind here this weekend. And then to the Sunday slate, Nick, Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, Kaylee Hartung on NBC. It is the Los Angeles Rams and Matt Stafford heading to Philadelphia to Lincoln Financial Field to take on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, with the Eagles a 6-point favorite.
So this game has a lot of interesting headlines. Obviously, the Rams with the LA Fires, the Palisades, and having momentum, or the fans carrying them through, winning in Arizona. So the whole country is going to be behind the Rams, like just in every way, shape, or form. They're just going to be behind them. Matt Stafford has actually looked pretty good. I was kind of surprised. He's on the older side. That game was a little surprising because everyone thought the Vikings were going to run away with the game against the Rams. And I took the Rams. I don't know how many people took the Rams last week. I'm just doing a quick check. I think we had 3 of us took the Rams last week. So everyone thought Sam Darnold was going to play better. It just didn't work out. And Matt Stafford just came through like he normally does and plays well as a veteran. On the Eagles side, Jalen Hurts, I think, is finally healthy. Now, finally after being cleared. But I don't know if, again, I trust him 100% to be healthy. Again, there was some issues on the sideline. It looked like A.J. Brown was enjoying a good book on the sideline while only getting 1 pass attempt, I think, the whole game for 10 yards.
That book a bestseller overnight. He made that book bestseller.
53 million books or whatever were sold. That was like the best promotion that book author could get. But this is a weird game, like I said, because there's momentum on each side. But I think the Eagles are the better team, question mark, because I just think they have more offensive weapons than the Rams do. Man, this is tough. This is very tough. I'm going to take the Eagles no cover because I think the Rams are going to play with momentum of the city behind. I think they win, but I think it's going to be a close game. So Eagles no cover.
So let's see if the Rams can do what they're the only team that since this Super Wild Card, the extra 2 teams and the Monday night game in the wild card, they're the only team that has won a Monday night wild card game and advanced on since then, because the last 3 teams that won on Monday in the wild card round lost in the divisional round. So it seems like playing on that Monday night is a nightmare for almost everybody. And the key word is almost, because the Rams did it in 2021 and they ended up winning Super Bowl 56. Now, we go back to their first meeting back in week 12 between these 2 teams. The Rams defense could not tackle Saquon Barkley at all. Ran for a franchise record 255 yards while the Eagles rushed for 314. And I only bring that up because since that game, the Rams defense has grown up, it's stepped up, and it's playing at a completely different level right now. But as good as the Rams have played on defense, the Eagles have played better on defense. And they're playing at a completely different level than everybody else all season. I mean, they give up the fewest yards per game during the regular season, the fewest passing yards, the second fewest points. I mean, they beat up pretty much everybody they face. And so with both defenses playing so well, this basically comes down to which offense do I trust more. And right now, that's the Rams. And Matt Stafford, I think, let's be honest, is one of the best postseason quarterbacks in history. And I think that matters when you're going up against a Vic Fangio schemes. It's so tricky because I trust Sean McVay as the better head coach in this one, which I think makes it very uncomfortable for the Eagles. But I still think, though, at the end of the day, I think the Eagles still do have a little bit too much. Now, the weather looks to actually be a little bit more mild. And what I mean by that is it's going to be around 40 when this game goes off, which, in Philadelphia in January, that seems kind of tropical.
Yeah.
Where we look like a lot of the country. I mean, here in South Carolina, it's going to be in the low 30s next week. So just put that in perspective. But, Nick, I'm going to jump on board with you. I'm taking the Rams to cover the number. But I think at the end of the day, I think the Eagles still have too much, even though I think the coaching advantage is with the Rams. I think you can make the case the offense is with the Rams. I think the Eagles still do have a little bit too much. I think this is actually a little bit of a lower scoring game, but I think the Eagles do eke out a win and they go to the NFC Championship. So I'll take the Eagles, but the Rams to cover.
By the way, second lowest total of the weekend, 43.5.
Yeah, feels like a little bit of an under. I'll tell you, there's one game that I actually would love to tackle the total more than the spread, and that's actually the final one.
Me too.
And we'll talk about that when we get there. But in terms of this game, I am going to take the Rams +6. Grant?
Yeah. I mean, you guys have said it. They'll have the city behind them. In the Rams. And I picked the Vikings to win last week, but I had a hunch that the Rams were going to win. I should have trusted my gut on that one and went with the Rams. But the Eagles just, they have just as good as an offense as they do with their defense. And with Vic Fangio, Vic Fangio is like the defensive mastermind in the NFL. So I'm going to take the Eagles to win, but I do not think that they'll cover. I think this is going to be a closer game than people think, or than -6. So I'll take the Eagles to win, but no cover.
Okay.
So this is a battle of two teams that got two great defensive lines, obviously two great quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks that have gotten their teams to Super Bowl. One quarterback that's won a Super Bowl, one that just came up short. I think being in his second game back, I think Jalen Hurts will be much better. But I think the difference in this game will be the cornerback group. I think the secondary of the Eagles is much better than the Rams secondary. I know they got a couple young safeties who are really promising, and their secondary is better than what it was to start the season. But they're definitely not as good as the Eagles. I've been saying it all year with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. The Eagles' pass secondary is unbelievable to go along with that great defensive line. But because of those two great defenses, I do think we might get a slightly low-scoring game. So I don't like the point spread on this either. So I think the Eagles win no cover as well.
Wow.
Ben?
Yeah, I'm going against all you guys when it comes to Eagles no cover. I'm looking at Matt Stafford when it comes to record and precipitation and the rain and snow, and he is 1-8. At least I know that Matt Stafford is a very good quarterback, but record shows what it shows, and he has less than a 60% completion percentage when it comes to those climates. So with that being said, and like I said, Matt Stafford, he's a great quarterback. He's probably going to go down as one of the greats down the road. But, like Anthony was saying, I think Jalen Hurts has a much better game. I think that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown have a much better game. I don't think they really did a whole lot against the Packers. And I think the Packers have a pretty good defense. Their secondary is pretty good. The Rams secondary, I think, is okay, but I think it's more their defensive front that I think is really their strong suit. In the snowy climate, what do the Eagles can do well? Well, they run the football really well. So I think that they're going to run the football a lot. They're going to use a lot of play action. And I feel comfortable that not only I'm going to take the Eagles, but this is also my lock of the week.
And Kanan?
Yeah, so I think the key for both teams has to do with Saquon Barkley. I think we saw in the last games with the Rams was they got a couple good runs off on them. Or the last game with the Vikings, excuse me. They had some success with the runs. So if you get Saquon going early, have him rip up the middle, even though that defensive line is so good, draw up some things, Jalen Hurt and the Reed really throw people off. If that doesn't work, you have good wide receiver matchups. I feel like the Eagles receivers are really big, could out physical the secondary of the Rams there. And if they get that done, I think they got it. So I'm going to take the Birds to cover, and that's going to be my lock of the week as well.
So this is a huge swing game because Zan took the Eagles and Nick D took the Rams. So definitely split here across the board. I think we're all agreeing the Eagles are going to win, but the majority of us are going to grab the 6 with the Rams, and Nick D is taking the Rams to win.
Lone Wolf.
No, you're not the lone wolf. You and Keenan both are taking the Eagles and both putting your lock on it. So you two will be on an island. You two will be on an island. Wolves.
Copied it.
Yes.
I'm talking about Nick D taking the Rams out.
Yes, that is true. Nick D is the lone
Oh.
wolf and taking the Rams outright. But if you do it based on point spread, technically it is the majority taking the Rams plus the 6,
True.
even though he's going to take them on the money line. So it is a little bit different there in that regard. All right. Anthony, game. I mean, this could be the game of the year. I mean, it's a damn shame that somebody's got to lose this, but we go to Buffalo. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, and Jay Feely on CBS. It's Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and Josh Allen and your Bills up at Orchard Park at Highmark Stadium, and it's the Ravens laying 1.5 points.
Before I get into the game, can we just say that Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are both great quarterbacks? You know, I just hate how we always have to put one down to bring up the other one. And whoever does lose this game, can we not sit there and destroy them the next day on that Monday? You know, I think both these guys are great. Both these guys had great seasons. And like you said, someone has to lose the game, but let's not bash the loser. But, yeah, when I look into this game, I do think Josh Allen is the best player in the National Football League this year. I think he's more valuable. He's done more with less than Lamar Jackson. But as a team, the Ravens are the better team. The Ravens have Derrick Henry. They have Zay Flowers. You got Mark Andrews. And you got a much better defense. I know the Bills had Gregory Rousseau and they got Tyron Johnson. But I think Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey, just as a whole, Nate Wiggins, the rookie at corner, the Ravens are just a better team. And I know Josh Allen can be Superman and try to put the team on his back. But at the end of the day, you got to have a great overall team, and you got to have a Super Bowl winning defense to win the Super Bowl. And I just think the Bills just don't have that around Josh Allen right now. And I think usually this is why the Bills lose in the second round, because Josh Allen could only carry your team so far. And I think the Bills are a couple years away. They have improved. They build up the offensive line. The defense has gotten better. But I just think that they're a few years away from building that team around Josh Allen. Unlike Lamar Jackson, I think that team is built around him this year. This is the year for Lamar Jackson with Derrick Henry to win the Super Bowl. I mean, practically that's 2 MVP candidates on the same team. So I think the Ravens going on the road, I think the Ravens are going to get the win and cover, and it's going to be my lock of the week.
Ben.
All right. I wish that we could just have this as a Super Bowl. I'm just going to basically just say it right now. I mean,
I agree.
You basically just look at a Sunday night, 6:30, and be like, all right, you know.
Doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, exactly. You could play best 2 out of 3, and I think everybody would love it. But all jokes aside, you got the 2 MVP candidates going back and forth. They've obviously played each other in the last, within the last 5-6 years, a couple times, and it's always been great games. Obviously the Bills lost in Baltimore earlier on this year. They lost in a blowout, but I think that game's kind of overblown, to be honest. I just think that the Ravens, they're just a juggernaut. And the one thing about the Ravens that the Broncos couldn't do last week was run the football. What do the Ravens have? They have a great running game with Derrick Henry, obviously leading, of course, Lamar Jackson. What is one thing that you could do to beat the Bills? Keep Josh Allen off the field. So I think with that being said, between the strong running game, and I was really worried last week that, losing Zay Flowers would hurt, but the Ravens didn't seem like they missed a beat. So it's almost like it's a luxury at this point in time. They still have Mark Andrews. They got Isaiah Likely. They're just still rolling. And I got to give a lot of credit also to Tom Monken, their offensive coordinator. He's basically just creating so much in terms of run packages, great scheme. Their defense, of course, has been great. And like Anthony said, there's so much that Josh Allen can do, of course, just on his own. As great, of course, as the season that he's had, the complementary pieces, I trust, of course, a lot more with the Ravens right now than I do with the Bills. So with that being said, I'm going with the Ravens here to take the money, and I have them going to the AFC Championship once again to take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
I can.
Yeah, so I think this game is going to be awesome as well. Game of the year for sure. It's going to be great atmosphere. I think the fans are going to go nuts. I think they're going to jump through some tables. And even though the Ravens' whole lineup seems stacked, like you said, built around Lamar, he has a great running offense. That opens up a lot of opportunities for him off the reads and whatnot. So I don't know. It's just hard to go against Josh Allen as well, though. He's been amazing. He's put the team on his back, like Anthony said, time and time again. You got guys like James Cook. He's leading the league in rushing touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. And to go off what Ben said about their matchup prior, them getting beat, they were missing two key pieces, which is their starting linebackers, Milano and Pryor. So I think with them there, it's going to be a lot more competitive, and they might have an answer, maybe not to completely nullify the run, but slow them down at least. And I think I got the Bills on this one.
Nick?
Yeah, so we haven't talked about this yet, but the playoff issues with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, they have not come up yet, but the numbers, if you look straight at the numbers, he struggles in the playoffs compared to the regular season. And playing a game against Pittsburgh, that game meant zero to me whatsoever. Everyone in the world knew that the Ravens were going to go and beat the Steelers. I can't find one person who had the Steelers winning that game. So that game proved absolutely nothing to me whatsoever. Okay, so we got a playoff win. Big deal. This is a much different game. The Bills are a much more competitive team. That's Josh Allen on the other side, not Russell Wilson. I think Josh Allen comes up in the clutch. Anthony and I talked about it on ETB the other day. That throw that he made on 4th and 1, again, who's the receiver name, Anthony?
Ty Johnson.
That catch was incredible. Anthony even said it on our show that he could have just run for that 1 or 2 yards to get a first down. Nope, we just throw one in the back of the end zone on an elbow just to complete. I think Josh Allen is going to come up big. I think Josh Allen is going to drive his team. I think James Cook is going to have a big game. I also think the Bills are going to stack the box against the Ravens a lot more in this game, forcing the Ravens to throw the football, which is really not as strong a suit for Lamar either. And also, the wide receiver game of the Ravens has been a struggle all year on top of it. So if that's the way I'm leaning, I think the Bills win this game in an upset fashion. I think Lamar goes down in flames again like he did last year. So Bills win.
Oh, I have been going back and forth on this game all week. And it should be, because this feels like a conference championship or Super Bowl. I cannot believe that this game is only a divisional round matchup.
What do you think the NFL is thinking right now? Oh,
well,
shit.
I mean, it's great because in some way, shape, or form, we're going to get an AFC championship. I mean, we're assuming the Chiefs are going to beat the Texans on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to shape up a conference championship rematch because, you know, everybody and their kid brother who's not a Chiefs fan is going to root against them because they don't want them back in the Super Bowl again. But I'll tell you what. First and foremost, here's an amazing stat. This is the first time in history that the Bills are an actual underdog at home in the playoffs.
Whoa!
They've never been an underdog in their prior 18 home playoff games since entering the NFL in 1970.
That's wild.
Great hat tip to the folks there at ESPN Stats and Info. So, you know, it's tough to pick this game on a spread. I was saying to you guys, honestly, if I'm going to put money down on this game, I mean, there's definitely value to take the Bills as a getting points at home in this kind of moment, but I would attack the total. The total's 51.5. I actually would attack the under on that. I think it's going to be – I don't think there's going to be that many points scored. But let's – you know, I'm going to give you something crazy, and it's funny because I thought about this, and then I was watching Dan Orlowski, one of my favorite analysts on ESPN, and I think him and I actually share a brain on this, which is actually scary. So when I'm agreeing with Dan and I'm sharing a mind with him, I think it's good. This literally could come down to, for the Bills, could come down to their defense on first down because you know Derrick Henry's going to run the ball. And if you can stop him for 1 or 2 yards, you got to consider that a win because then what's going to end up happening is on second and medium, or even if he loses a yard or two, second and long, you know Henry's not going to be out there, so then you can play against the pass.
You're talking about being behind the sticks.
Yeah, and that could be where now we're doing this and not knowing if Zay Flowers is going to play. I know he's not practiced all week, but they have not. Harbaugh said
doesn't
that
sound
he's
like
not,
it.
What's that?
It doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't sound good, but Harbaugh also said that he would not rule him out for playing, even though he didn't practice all week. I mean, maybe he's just trying to say that. Just
it's been over 2 weeks since he's done anything.
Really want to miss this either.
But that's what this game could really come down to is if you could stop. I mean, look, you're not going to stop Derrick Henry. You got to try and contain him. But the difference with this versus their meeting back in week 4 was the fact that you're going to have Teron Armstead, Matt Milano, and Bernard in that game, which will, again, while you won't be able to stop Derrick Henry, you'll be able to contain him, and that'll help because, like I said, if you get a yard or two, then you know it's going to be a passing down, and you don't have to play against the run. The other way you can help that too is if the Bills can play from ahead as well. Get out to an early lead, score early, and force the Ravens to be playing from behind. Anthony, I'm going to push back a little bit on what you said. The one reason why I actually think the Bills are Super Bowl defense is I trust them to get turnovers. And I think that's the ultimate difference in defenses when it comes to being a Super Bowl defense or not, is can you get takeaways and turnovers? I actually trust the Bills defense more than the Ravens defense to get turnovers in a big spot. And I think then that'll help Josh Allen I think he'll take care of the football and he'll hit big plays in the passing game. And I think that's the best way to beat the Ravens. And what this feels like also is this could come down to either on the Ravens side, Justin Tucker, or on the Bills side, Tyler Bass. I'm taking the Bills, though, to win. And I think they go back, and I think we're going to have a Bill-Chief AFC Championship game for the ages. So I'm taking the Bills. Yeah, well, it's going to be if the Chiefs win, it's going to be a rematch regardless. We can have Chiefs Ravens again like we did last year, or we can have Chiefs Bills from 2 years ago.
It's going to be great regardless.
It's going to be great regardless. I'm taking the Bills, though, as a home dog to get back, though. I think that's the value, so that's where I'm going to go at. But I think it's going to be an awesome scene no matter what. And it's supposed to be cold and possibly snowy there in Buffalo there, Anthony, on Sunday.
Yeah, possibly snow. The snow chances are probably about 40%, but it's definitely going to be frigid temperatures. Probably going to feel like 1 degree.
Oh, my God.
January football, you got to love it. Not like the -30 real field that we had in Kansas City in the wild card round last year. But you know what? That's January football. And Grant, you can wrap us up here.
Okay, so I have a love and hate relationship with this game. I love this game because we have 2 MVP candidates in this game at quarterback. But that's kind of also the reason I hate it, because whoever wins this game most likely gets MVP. Because let me say this: even if Patrick Mahomes, it goes on to the Super Bowl and all that stuff, he has not played MVP level caliber football this year. The record may not show that, but the stats show that. Now, both of these quarterbacks have played MVP type caliber years. And I mean, I love them both team wise, but just with how dangerous the Ravens are, I think I'm going to have to take them to win and cover. But I would really love to see the Bills win this and take on the Chiefs, because honestly, I think this would be the year that the Bills could actually beat the Chiefs.
Wow. All right. Well, it should be epic regardless, and that is the divisional round in the National Football League.
Who did everybody else pick for the Ravens-Bills game?
Nick D picked the Bills.
Nick D picked the Bills, and Zan took
the Ravens.
He took the Ravens, so we're split.
Mm.
And it's appropriate to be split because it's that kind of matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I think, in my opinion, that's the best game of the week, by far. And unfortunately, the NFL and Roger Goodell are probably cursing behind the scenes that this is not a later round or whatever, but this is an incredible game. But that'll do it for this episode of the Football Forecast. Follow us on social media at DFB Forecast, ETB, for all the latest clips and information. I mean, we're only down to a couple games. We're probably not going to see as many extra clips over the next couple of weeks because not as many games. Doesn't really make sense to clip locks and all that stuff because we're pretty much down to the end. But just check out for everything else, and you'll get all our picks and stuff. You'll see that as well. Listen to Football Forecast wherever you get your podcasts, all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Acast, YouTube Premium. You know the deal by now. Also, youtube.com/ETB Network video side. Over 900 subscribers. We crossed that threshold. We are less than 100 away from 1,000 subscribers. Please like, and subscribe. It helps the algorithm with all our videos and the views side. So please help us out there as well. And also, the football forecast is presented by Playback. Check that out as well. We have the national championship stream coming out Monday. A lot of guys are going to be there watching that game. So come out and join us. Playback.tv/ETB Network, and come join in and watch all the fun with us. I see what you wrote, Ben. Anyway, Mr. Ohio State fan.
Good luck, Ben, from a Notre Dame guy. Okay?
It'll be fun.
No matter what.
It'll actually be fun because I'm not the biggest college football fan, but I like to watch college football, so it'll kind of be exciting to watch. But that'll do it. So for everyone here at the Football Forecast, go enjoy the divisional round, and when we come back, the conference round is up in the rearview mirror. So go enjoy the football and have a good week. We will see everybody next week. Have a good day, everybody.